What happens when humanity's final hope is a weapon beyond comprehension? Trapped in a universe ruled by godlike judges, a group of survivors must sacrifice everything to challenge the greatest power in existence. But when the battle is over, will humanity remain, or will it become something far darker? Ashes of the Gods. Chapter 1. The Silence Between Worlds. The silence after Mars fell was worse than the screams. We watched it happen from Europa Station. 12 hardened Marines, 3 scientists, and me. One moment, the red planet burned in the usual solar haze. The next, it fractured like glass. No warning. No build-up. Just a silent rupture across our screens, followed by raw white light. And then nothing. Not even debris. God, whispered Dr. Hallstrom, her voice cracking. They unmade it. I didn't say anything. I was trying to count the seconds it took to die. 9. That's how long it took to destroy a planet that took 4 billion years to form. 9 seconds. It didn't make sense. Nothing did anymore. We weren't at war. No ultimatum. No contact. Not even a threat. Just silence. That's how we learned about the judges. That's what the survivors started calling them. Not invaders. Not aliens. Judges. Because they didn't come to fight us. They came to see if we were worthy. And if not, they erased. Like flipping a cosmic switch. Chapter 2. Protocol 9. Command broke protocol within 24 hours. Europa Station received a black-coded directive, the kind that bypasses all AI filters and encrypts itself straight into your optic nerve. The message was short. Protocol 9 initiated. Prepare for extinction-grade containment. Authorized to use Project Revenant. Godspeed. Project Revenant. The last thing humanity built that we swore never to use. That's when I knew we weren't going to win. We were going to cheat. Chapter 3. The Ghost Engine. They kept Revenant buried beneath the ice of Enceladus. Far from Earth, far from oversight, far from anything human. Because it wasn't. The elevator down was nearly a kilometer long. The walls were coated with black synth steel, cold enough to steal the heat from your bones. Hallstrom stood beside me, her breath misting in the recycled air. Last chance to walk away, I said. She shook her head. I helped build it. You helped wake it, I corrected. There's a difference. The lights flickered. The elevator jolted. The hum, deep and unnatural, started below us. Not mechanical, not like a reactor, more like something alive stretching in its sleep. The doors opened. There were no guards, no engineers. Just a room, white, spherical, pulsing with strange light like it was breathing. And at its center, the ghost engine. It looked like a chrysalis fused with a cathedral. Ancient and biomechanical, parts of it were still moving, self-repairing after decades of hibernation. We found it on Ganymede, Hallstrom said softly. It was already here, buried, waiting. I took a step closer. My visor went black. Every sensor died. My thoughts stuttered. It spoke. Not out loud. In my head. You are not ready, but you are desperate. That will do. Chapter 4. We broke the rules. When humanity first touched the stars, we found ruins. Not civilizations. Remains. Empty cities. Fossilized machines. All destroyed at different times, in different systems. We thought it was coincidence. Then we saw the pattern. Every intelligent species vanished at a certain technological point, right when they reached faster-than-light capability. The same point we had reached 20 years ago, and that's when the judges started showing up. That's why Revenant existed, not as a weapon, but a bargain chip. The ghost engine was never ours. It belonged to whatever race the judges erased before us, and we didn't fully understand it. But we understood one thing. It could rewrite physical law, and that gave us an edge. Chapter 5, The Last Trick. I linked into Revenant at 412 Earth Universal. The pain was Indescribable. Like someone was rewriting my DNA with a soldering iron and an old god's scream. Then suddenly, clarity. I saw everything. The orbital paths of stars, the energy signatures of judges across the system, the flaws in their programming. Because they were machines after all. Ancient, yes. Powerful, absolutely. But built. And everything built can be broken. But to do it, we'd have to kill part of ourselves. Literally. Because Revenant didn't just need a pilot, it needed a sacrifice. Chapter 6. Blood for the Machine. We thought it would ask for time, or energy, or some arcane sequence of activation. But no. Revenant wanted memory. Not data, not files. Real memory. Personal. Painful. And it didn't just take it. It ripped it out. First was Kato, our comms officer. He volunteered before anyone else, said he didn't have anyone left back on Earth anyway. He stepped into the chamber. It closed like a blooming flower made of bone. He screamed once, then silence. When the chamber opened, Kato was still standing, eyes wide, breathing. Alive, but empty. He didn't remember his name, or Earth, or why we were even there. All that was gone. Taken. But the engine responded. A surge of power pulsed through the station. The ice walls vibrated. And for a moment, just a moment, we saw something. A tear in space. Opening like a mouth. We had learned to speak their language. Chapter 7. The False Star. We launched the beacon at 0600 hours, a controlled burst of anti-energy, a frequency tuned to the judges' detection systems. To them, it looked like a new species had just triggered faster-than-light tech, somewhere far beyond us. They bit. 2 judges veered off course. It gave us a window, 26 minutes. That's all. Enough time to run Revenant's core algorithm and rewrite our position in the cosmic hierarchy, to stop being prey, to become invisible. But the code had a catch. We needed one more memory. One deep enough to complete the loop. One final sacrifice. They looked at me. I didn't volunteer. I walked in, because I had one memory left that was strong enough. Chapter 8. The War That Never Was. It was her face I gave up, my sister, dead on the first colony raid. I'd kept her laugh in my mind like a sacred song. Her voice was the only thing that kept me human on the darkest days. And now, gone. Taken by the engine. Swallowed by our last hope. Revenant roared. The walls turned black with equations I couldn't understand. Symbols burning into reality itself. The machine unraveled the physical constants around us. Time bent, mass fractured, light screamed, and then silence. The judges paused. You can't hear silence in space. But I felt it. They saw us, then turned and left. No attack. No verdict. No judgment. Just departure. We'd changed the rulebook. We weren't a threat anymore. We weren't anything. Revenant had made us invisible to their laws. The cost? We no longer existed in their system. No legacy, no records, no second chance. But we were alive, and we were free. Chapter 9. The Price of Freedom. We couldn't go back. Earth was gone, swallowed by the judge's will. Mars, Ganymede, Europa, all just dust now. The colonies, abandoned, forgotten, like old relics. We didn't have time to mourn the lost ones. We were living in borrowed time, and that was the truth. We were invisible, yes, but we weren't untouchable. Every moment spent in this void, in this place outside the judge's reach, felt like the universe was getting smaller. The further we drifted, the more empty it felt. I'd been fighting to survive, to make sure we had a future. But now, we were the future, the last remnants of humanity, stretched thin across the stars, cut off from everything we ever knew. The thing I feared most was now reality. We weren't part of the galaxy anymore. We were alone. Chapter 10: The Ghost in the Void. I spent the next 2 months in silence. At least I tried. The crew tried. We all tried. But the truth was inescapable. Kato still didn't remember his past. He didn't even recognize his own reflection. And Hallstrom, well, she kept seeing the engineers, the ones who built the ghost engine. She talked to them sometimes, her words trailing off as if she was listening to something only she could hear. And me? I kept seeing my sister. I never got her laugh back, but I saw her face sometimes, just flashes. Not real, not anymore, but enough to keep me going, enough to remind me that what we did was worth something. It had to be. Chapter 11: Echoes in the Void. One night, months after the judges had left, I found myself standing in the observation deck. The stars looked wrong, distant. Not because they were far, but because we were. I wasn't sure why I had returned here. I'd seen it all before. The galaxies, the nebulae, the empty space that we now called home. But then, something happened. The flashes, they weren't from my memories. They weren't even from our current reality. They felt like an echo, a faraway scream. And then I heard it, a whisper, soft, like a breeze. We will return. My heart stopped. I turned. No one was there, just the cold metal walls of the station. But I knew they weren't finished with us. The judges, the gods, they hadn't forgotten. We might be invisible, but in the end, we were never truly gone. Epilogue: The Price of Memory. The stars looked the same. The galaxies spun in their endless dance. But we were no longer part of it. Somewhere, out there, the judges were waiting. And we were the ghosts in their universe, a final, lingering question mark in the vastness of the cosmos. But as long as we lived, we had this, our freedom, at least, for now. Chapter 12: The Long Night. The station was eerily quiet, the hum of its reactors barely perceptible. Outside, the black void stretched endlessly, yet within us there was something alive. Something stirred in the dark corners of our minds, as if the universe itself had not forgiven us. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my sister's face. Not the version I had given to Revenant. Not the empty one. The hollow shell. Her real face. Smiling. It wasn't a memory anymore. It was a warning. And then there was the whispering. It began as an echo in my head, soft and distant, like the reverberation of some deep, ancient bell. It called to me in the quiet moments, when I was alone staring out into the void. It was always the same words: we will return. The station's AI, a remnant of the old Earth network, had long stopped being useful. Its messages were distorted, as if the code itself was fraying at the edges. But the whispers, they were different. They felt intentional. Chapter 13: The Unseen Watchers. I gathered the crew for a meeting. It had been weeks since we made the decision to sever ties with the galaxy. I told them the truth, that we were not alone. Not anymore. We're not invisible, I said, standing before them in the dimly lit command center. The judges may not have seen us, but they know we're here. I feel it. They're watching. Always. There were murmurs of disbelief, eyes shifting nervously. Kato, who had started rebuilding his memory in fragments, stood up, his voice shaky but determined. We survived their judgment, he said. Doesn't that count for something? Hallstrom, her expression unreadable, crossed her arms. What if we're not supposed to survive? What if the price of our survival was that we became cursed? Her words hung in the air like smoke. Chapter 14: The Broken Beacon. That night, I couldn't take it anymore. I went to the comms room and tried to tap into the old Earth channels, the ones we hadn't touched since our escape. I thought just for a moment that there might be something there. A signal, a call. I didn't expect to find anything, but I did. A flicker, a faint pulse, like an ancient heartbeat. A transmission. It was broken, fragmented. But the message, I could make out the words. A voice I hadn't heard in years. "We are coming back. It's not over. Don't leave the void." The message cut out before I could even process it. A warning? A promise? I didn't know. But one thing was clear. They weren't done with us. Chapter 15. The Return. The next few days were filled with a sense of growing dread. Hallstrom refused to leave her quarters, mumbling about voices in the walls. Cato was studying the station's systems obsessively, trying to decode something I couldn't understand. His memory was getting worse, not better, as if the more he uncovered, the more pieces of him were lost. I began to see them too, the shapes, out of the corner of my eye. In the dark corners of the station, thin, wispy forms, drifting like ghosts, fading before I could focus on them. Always the same faces. My sister's face, Cato's younger self, Hallstrom before she lost her mind. They weren't real, but they were. Chapter 16. The Choice. I had one more decision to make, a choice that would determine the fate of whatever was left of us. I'd been avoiding the final chamber, the heart of Revenant. But now, I knew what I had to do. If the judges were coming back, if they were still aware of us, then we had to be ready. And to do that, we needed to understand them, all their weaknesses, all their secrets. I made my way to the chamber with one goal in mind, to merge with Revenant fully, to integrate the ghost engine into my own mind, to use it not as a weapon, but as a key to understanding everything. Chapter 17, The Final Awakening. The pain was unbearable. I wasn't just accessing Revenant's core anymore, I was becoming one with it. Its ancient alien intelligence flooded my senses. Every flicker of its past lives, every war it had witnessed, every race it had destroyed. But there was something more, something deeper, a presence. The judges. They had been using the engine. They were not its creators. They had been its prisoners. Chapter 18. The God Killer. I understood it then. The judges were not invincible. They had been constructed, just like us. They were an experiment, a tool. And Revenant? Revenant was their executioner. The last survivors of an ancient race had built it, to end the judges once and for all. The God Killers. Not just a weapon, but a force capable of ending even the most advanced species in existence. And it had been waiting for us to be worthy. The price of our survival had been steep, but now we had a choice. We could fight the judges once again, with the full force of the ghost engine at our disposal. Or we could escape, leave the void and find a new galaxy, one where the judges had never been. But there was no going back. Epilogue, The Watcher in the Void. I made the decision to fight. We would never be truly free, but at least this time, we would be the ones who chose our fate. And when the judges finally return, we will be waiting. We will be the ghosts, the watchers, the last hope for humanity. Chapter 19. The Descent. The months that followed were a blur of frantic preparation. Revenant was fully integrated into the station now, no longer a mere relic of a forgotten race, but a living part of us. A dark, ancient intelligence that spoke to us through the hum of its systems. It was alive in ways we couldn't entirely comprehend, but it was our ally now, and that meant one thing. We had to prepare for war. The judges weren't just coming to test us anymore. They had become aware of our defiance. The invisibility we had used to escape their notice was now a threat to their very order. The AI, the ghost engine, had given us the tools. We could fight. We could bring down their ships, their technology, their rule. But there was a catch. We would need to enter the heart of their empire, a place beyond the known galaxies, a place where time, space, and even life itself bent to the judge's will. We needed to bring the fight to them. But to do that, we would have to leave everything behind. Europa Station, Earth, the memories of our lost people. It would all be gone once we entered the judge's territory. They would never let us return. Not if they saw us as a threat. Chapter 20. The Breaking Point. The crew was fractured. We were all fractured. Cato had become obsessed with the engine's data. His memory was slipping further, but there was something else. He kept talking about seeing another future, one where the judges weren't our enemies, but our salvation. A future where humanity became part of their empire, serving as their new chosen species. I didn't know if it was the engine corrupting him, or if it was something deeper, something we hadn't fully understood. Hellstrom was no better. She had stopped speaking to anyone except for the whispers in the walls, murmuring about the others. The engineers, the original creators of Revenant. They were alive, somewhere out there, beyond the known stars. She believed they were watching us, guiding us. And me? I didn't know what to believe anymore. The more I stared into the void, the more I felt the weight of our decision. The path we had chosen would end one of two ways. We would either break the judges' power and become the rulers of this new age, or we would be annihilated, wiped from existence as they had done to so many before us. Chapter 21, The Final Door. It was time. The ship was ready. The coordinates had been locked in. But the moment we made the jump, there would be no turning back. I stood on the command deck, staring at the swirling mass of stars, knowing that I was about to commit the last act of defiance humanity would ever make. Kato and Hellstrom stood by my side. Their eyes were distant, filled with uncertainty. I could feel the fear in the air. "Are we ready for this?" Hellstrom asked softly. I nodded, though I wasn't sure. We had been preparing for this moment for so long that it had become a part of us. We were no longer just a crew. We were the last of humanity, the final stand. "We'll make them regret ever judging us," I said, my voice steady. "For all we've lost, for all we're sacrificing, we will make them understand." I turned to the control panel, initiating the sequence. The ship hummed with power, the engines charging for the jump. My heart pounded in my chest. This was it. And then, just as the countdown reached 0, I felt it, the presence. It was subtle at first, like a shadow in the corner of my mind. But then it grew, stronger, more palpable. The engine. It was speaking to me again, but not in the way it ever had before. This time, it wasn't a whisper. It was a roar. "They are watching. They have always been watching. But you have been chosen." I froze. The others didn't hear it, but I knew Revenant had not just chosen us to fight the judges. We had been chosen for something far darker. Chapter 22, The Gate to Judgment. The jump was like nothing I had ever experienced. The fabric of space itself twisted around us, folding and unfolding, as if it were paper in the hands of a god. Time blurred, shattered, and reformed. When we came out of the jump, we were no longer in the familiar, well-known universe. We were in their universe. The space around us was empty, devoid of stars, no planets, no light, just a crushing, suffocating blackness. It was as if the judges had stolen the very light from the cosmos. And in front of us was the gate. It was colossal, a structure so immense, so alien, that my mind struggled to comprehend it. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't a station. It was something beyond. A monument, a temple, a prison, all at once. And it was open. The judges were waiting for us. Chapter 23, The End of the Gods. We had no illusions left. We had come this far, and we were not going to back down. We would face them. The ship was ready. We were ready. I gave the final command, and we moved toward the gate. The moment we crossed its threshold, everything we had known fell away. The laws of physics, of reality, of existence itself, bent and warped around us. I could feel it. The judges were watching, their power pressing down on us from every side. But we weren't alone anymore. Revenant was with us. And we were not here to be judged. We were here to destroy. Chapter 24, The Judgment of Humanity. We entered the heart of the judge's domain, but nothing prepared us for the scale of what we encountered. The gate wasn't just a portal, it was a living entity, a colossal framework of energy, time, and space, pulsing with the power of an ancient civilization. As we approached, the edges of the ship flickered with an otherworldly distortion. It felt as if the ship itself were alive, too, becoming part of something far grander than any human-made vessel. The judges were here, somewhere, their presence weighing down on everything. Their mind-shattering power rippled across the void. The very air, if it could be called air, suffocated with the force of their being. They were not gods, not in the way we understood the term. They were time, space, the universe itself, They were the arbiters of existence. But they were no longer invincible. Chapter 25, The Final Decision. We didn't have much time. As the ship neared the core of the gate, Revenant's presence surged. The ghost engine flared to life, its machinery expanding within the ship, feeding us raw data, showing us the judges' weaknesses, their flaws. But there was a price. In exchange for the knowledge, for the power we needed to stand a chance, we had to sacrifice something more than just the future. We had to sacrifice our humanity. The engine would tear us apart, breaking our minds and reshaping us into something other. We would no longer be human. It was a choice we couldn't make lightly. But there was no turning back. The judges were closing in on us. We could either fight and survive, or we would be wiped from existence, our name and our species forgotten. Chapter 26. The Battle for the Cosmos. The moment the judges saw us, they attacked. The space around us warped, twisted. The gate itself shuddered as their immense power lashed out, like the strike of 1,000 suns. But we had Revenant. And Revenant had shown us the way. We fought with everything we had. The ship became an extension of our will. The data from Revenant flowed through us, feeding our every move. We attacked in waves, no longer just relying on conventional weapons, but on disrupting the judge's very fabric of existence. Cato, despite his fractured memory, fought with the clarity of someone who knew this was his destiny. Hallstrom, driven by whispers of the engineers, fought like a woman possessed, unleashing every bit of her psyche into the battle. But it wasn't enough. The judge's power was too great. Just as it seemed we were about to be overwhelmed, Revenant spoke to me one final time, not in words, but in thoughts. The ancient consciousness of the engine connecting to my mind. This is the final trial. To win, you must become the truth. The engine can remake you, but you must surrender everything, all that you are, all that you were. It was then that I understood. We weren't here to fight the judges alone. We were here to replace them. Chapter 27, The Ascension. The ghost engine began its final transformation. The walls of the ship creaked and groaned as it reshaped, as it merged with our very beings. Time slowed, and space bent around us. The cost of using the engine's full power was the ultimate sacrifice, the destruction of all human limitations. I felt myself stretching beyond what was possible. I felt the weight of all the knowledge the engine had absorbed, of the ancient species that had created it, of the civilizations that had fallen, of the endless cycles of life and death in the universe. And then, I knew. The judges had never been gods. They'd only been the first. And now, it was time for us to become the next. As the final surge of energy enveloped us, the ship split apart, scattering into 1,000 pieces of light and dark. Our minds burned with the pure essence of the universe. We no longer fought for survival. We no longer fought for humanity. We fought for existence itself. And in that final moment, as we tore through the fabric of the judge's power, the judges themselves screamed in agony. The first of their kind fell. Then the second. Then the rest. The judges were no more. And in their place, we stood. Epilogue. A new dawn. When the battle was over, nothing remained but silence. We stood at the precipice of a new era. The engine was silent, but it was still there, guiding us, watching us. Our bodies had changed. Our minds had been altered. We were no longer the humans we once were. We were something new, something more. But what we had learned in our fight against the judges was this. Power, no matter how great, comes at a price. The universe had its balance. And now, we were the ones tasked with ensuring that balance remained. Not as gods, not as rulers, but as watchers. And though we could no longer see the stars the way we once did, we knew something even more important. We were free. We had become the new arbiters of existence, and we would protect the cosmos from the same fate that had once befallen us. And,